Hi, I'm David Campos. Welcome to my studio. Today I want to talk about home recording software and home-built studios. You know, this is a subject that's very close to my heart. I actually grew up in recording studios. My father was a very successful music producer. He wrote a lot of jingles and produced music for corporate and even had a little bit of success in the music business. And you know, my memories as a child are running around the recording studio with big analog multi-track, reel-to-reels, and these huge consoles with buttons and knobs. And you know, I always used to look at the sound engineer and the producers being these real geniuses. How did they know which button did what? And slowly but surely, you know, as I grew up, first of all, I sang in recording sessions. By the time I was 8 or 9, I composed my first broadcast song on TV by the time I was 12 or 13, which was used for an ad campaign. And you know, as computers came in more and more, those were my two loves. My first love was music and my second love was computers. So slowly but surely, computers took over all the roles that the desk used to take, that the analog multi-track used to record onto. So slowly but surely, eventually, we were doing everything on the computer, from recording to sequencing to effects to mixing to mastering. And that's where I kind of started to, I remember, you know, saying to my dad, you know, Dad, we don't need all this gear, we don't need this facility. We could set up a small studio at home that could achieve exactly the same results in the comfort of our home, producing international quality music. And that's just when we took our first step. You know, we built a studio. I remember I was about 15 or 14 years old, built our first home studio, and then we built a second one when I was about 18, improved it. You know, that was the second studio that I was involved in with my dad. And then when I was 21, I left my father and started my own music production company. And I was actually kind of in a pickle because I was on my own. My dad wasn't helping me out anymore. I didn't have any money. And I had to come up with other ways. I'd built studios in the past. I'd recorded music on you know, home recording software. But I'd never actually tried to achieve that international quality, build a studio and have the software that was necessary. So my first studio was actually in my apartment in a flat, and I remember the first job I ever got, I was pitching against two other jingle writers and producers for it was an Uno car commercial, and they had these $1 million studios, and all I had was my EPS and Sonic sampler sequencer all in one on a cardboard box. And I had a little child who was like 2-3 years old, and I had to make money. And so I made a plan, you know, I recorded, I did the track, I sequenced it, I did everything on the sampler in my apartment. And I remember the sound was bouncing off the walls, and I remember, you know, struggling to hear the mix. And I thought to myself, you know, I need to build a proper studio, you know, just like I was used to how I'd grown up. So I went and rented a place, and we built my own, my second studio, which was actually, we built it ourselves. I used to be with my brothers, and that studio we built ourselves using the similar kind of techniques that I'd seen my dad use and that we developed together. And we were there for about 3 or 4 years, and we had a really good time. We grew, we made a little bit of money, we bought a bit of equipment, and then from there, you know, my brothers left me, and I decided to go on my own, and I bought a house, and I needed to build another studio. But you know, each time I built a studio, you know, I thought to myself, there's got to be an easier, there's got to be a faster, there's got to be a better way to do this. So I, you know, adapted my techniques slowly but surely, building studios with different techniques, and you can see how it turned out pretty good. And I managed to grow my client base, and I built my name and my brand as a music producer in the industry, and I went on to win New York Clio Awards for my advertising productions and compositions. My music has been all over the world. I've sold more than 1.5 million records over the last 10 years, and And then I decided I was going to move again. So we bought another house, and this time I said to myself, no, this time I want to build my dream studio. So, you know, what actually happened was I hired a carpenter, and I decided, let's do this properly. And just before he was about to build, he got very sick and he was in hospital, and there was all this wood outside, there was all his equipment, nobody to build it. My work was building up and getting backlogged, and I said, you know, I need to dive in there and build the studio myself, just like, as I'd always done. I was forced to do it again. And that's the studio I'm sitting in right now. And I'm actually just about to embark on building, I think it's like my 5th or 6th studio now, in my beach house apartment which I've got by the sea. And I've developed a new technique now that is going to use no nails. It's very, very low labor. It's very, very effective. Does the same job as the traditional method, and it's going to cost very cheap, and it's going to be very easy. So I will make a video about that later on, and I'll share with you guys step by step how I do that. But just to talk about home recording software, what I'd like to say about that is, you know, I remember the early days, it was like Pro Tools was the mothership, you know. Without Pro Tools, you couldn't record proper music, you know. You were not a top producer unless you had Pro Tools. You were not a professional studio unless you had Pro Tools. But you know, those days have gone. These days you can achieve just as good a result using Cubase, Logic Pro, you know, many other software packages out there. And my personal preference is Logic Studio, which is which is owned by Apple Mac, and runs on an Apple Mac only. But you can use Cubase, and you know, with a decently built studio in your home running Logic or Cubase, and with a little bit of knowledge, you can actually achieve quite a lot. You can produce top international tracks. You know, I know the guy who composed and wrote the theme tunes for BBC World and BBC News. All of that stuff was composed on his Apple Mac, on the subway in the metro in London underground. He composed it on earphones. He worked in transit to work every day. Of course, you can't final mix on a laptop, but my point is, you know, music is changing and technology is opening the door. You know, I record in December. I wrote 3 compositions that I was commissioned to do for commercial advertising on my balcony in my beach house with a pair of headphones. People said it's impossible. Surely you can't produce international music sitting in your beach house on the balcony, on the patio, looking out at the sea, working with earphones. But I did it, you know. So, you know, I'm living proof of that. And I would like to, as we go on this journey together, I'd like to show you that it's possible, that you can also get the same results. And don't believe the rubbish that people tell you, that you have to have certain, you know, a room within a room in a studio, and that there's certain mysteries to how bass traps works and how reflection, you have to model it in a computer. That's all rubbish, you know. I've even compared my studio. I've had modeled studios compared to my studio, and the sound I've been achieving in my studio, the sound has been far superior. Just with a little bit of common sense and a little bit of general knowledge. If you have a bit of, you know, knowledge is power, but it's about having the right knowledge and focusing on the most important parts of that knowledge. So I hope this video helped you out a little bit. Just a little bit of background history about me and about where I come from, and also to encourage you to say that yes, you can build a studio at home, and yes, you can work on home recording software, and yes, you can get an international quality product. So why don't you get stuck in? Let's do it.